Hey everyone, this is George Hedden, founder of Postfest and Awards, and you're tuned to Breakthrough Sessions 2024. We're all about the clever ideas that push boundaries. And for the past 5 weeks, with one more to go, we brought you some of the sharpest minds in the business to talk about what's happening right now. Every Friday from September 6th to October 25th and 1 p.m., we're live for the 30 minutes, just enough time to give you some serious insights without pulling you away from your busy day. So let's dive in, get inspired. Most of all, let's break through together. Today's session is the state of global creativity. Creativity can be such a loaded word with a myriad of ways to define it. Understanding its place in a business is key to unlocking business growth. Today with us, the one and only Rose Herceg, the president of WPP Australia New Zealand, leading agency CEOs and championing WPP's collective capabilities. Formerly the chief strategy officer of WPP, she founded innovation agency Pophouse and is renowned futurist, business strategist, and author of 3 leadership and innovation books. Welcome, Rose.
George, thanks for having me.
Likewise, thank you, and it's great to chat with you. And to be quite frank, I did a bit of a research, but nisam znao da mogu da pričam s tobom na nekom drugom jeziku.
Nisam ni ja znala, George. To je jako
Eto,
lijepo.
eto sada znamo I možemo. For everybody else, uh, who are talking in Croatian and Serbian, and I just discovered this in my little sort of research with Rose. We're going to talk and touch on few different things from leadership to impact, culture, diversity, measuring creativity, challenges, trends, role, future outlook, and few rapid fire questions. What I admire about you, Rose, I think you're fearless, confident, focused, opinionated, a little bit wild, data driven, and so much more that I don't know. But in one of the conversations you had for Screaming Creativity with Rob Riley, you said you're not standard boring leaders. So can you tell us what type of a leader you are?
Oh, goodness, George. It depends what day you get me on, but I think the best leader that I ever saw was my father. He was probably the best example of leadership. And I think the thing that made him so fantastic is that he had an innocence of a child. He had a wild imagination, and he was really wonderful at leading people. And I think good leaders lead. They put their money where their mouth is. They lead by example. They take the right risks, and they do the best they can to be fearless. And so for me, I've modeled myself, to be quite honest, on my dad. He was probably the greatest leader I've ever seen in my lifetime. And I think for me, those people that are very easy to be around and are low maintenance in their style end up getting the best out of people.
Fantastic. And that's something that you kind of had for a long period of your life as well, support. And talking about creativity, it is a word that kind of could mean a lot of different things, but what does it to you? How does it apply for leadership and in a business context?
It's a great question. I think creativity is the best lever that we have to solve some of the world's biggest problems. When everything is said and done, all that's left, frankly, is imagination and creativity. And even if you look at the great medical advances and the great breakthroughs, like, say, the polio vaccine, what that took is a group of lateral thinkers who wouldn't quit, didn't want to give up, and problem solved using their imagination by crossing things off a list. You know, Einstein talks about the value and the role of perseverance and imagination. So for me, creativity is the world's greatest tool when solving some of the world's biggest problems.
And on the other side of creativity, there's mediocrity. And I know you're a fearless fighter, mediocrity. And but then if we're gonna go back to creativity and what is your definition of original, authentic, and why? And you mentioned a little bit why creativity matters, but how do you define that originality or authenticity within the world that we live in using the creativity?
Sure. I think when you smell an idea that is original, it makes you a little bit sick because you're so nervous about it. And when I look at the ideas that we develop right across WPP, the ideas that are on the edge, the ideas that make us incredibly nervous, the ideas that make us think, my goodness, we might either make people anxious or maybe get a response or
global creativity. I thought it'd be
or
interesting.
fear.
But
I think that is the definition
this is separate
of creativity.
Can we have everybody on mute, please, so we don't hear you speaking with people? Thank you.
So George, that's what I think. I think that when it makes you feel a little bit sick and terrified, then you know that it's truly original. I think the inverse of that, what you were touching on, is mediocrity. And I think with mediocrity, there's a lot of average and there's a lot of beige in the world. If there are 31 flavors for ice cream, then vanilla ideas are dull and probably repetitive, and they've been done somewhere before. And I think mediocrity is the enemy of imagination. And I think we all fall into the trap of mediocrity. We've got to stop ourselves from taking the obvious road and making sure that we stick to the lateral road.
Thank you. Is there a way to measure creativity, do you think?
Well, funnily enough, business metrics is probably the best way to measure creativity, because when something is truly creative, it drives sales, it drives revenue, it drives EBITDA, it drives share price, it drives the investor market. So if you look at the world's greatest companies, Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, these are companies with the world's biggest market caps, but they are also the most creative and the most imaginative. So I can see a very straight line between creativity and the market cap of a business and the financial metrics and success of a business. And I think the two should be together more and more, because I don't think that creativity should be wildly in an orbit all of its own, because best creativity leads to those kinds of financial results.
The progress depends on it.
Absolutely right. I mean, in the history of invention, from the time we came out of the cave to the where we are now, the thing that has defined that journey is creativity, the imagination, the lateral thinking. You know, when John F. Kennedy talked about putting a man on the moon, they had no idea how to do it. None. And there we are in 1969 doing exactly that. So I feel like oftentimes creativity is a leap of faith, and then the science follows.
Yeah. And I wanted to kind of ask you something that a little bit more connected to WPP. In this world that people working from home, working in offices, and how do you make sure the best quality creative work is being made when you don't have that continuity of inspiration, creative brainstorming in the office? How does it happen in WPP?
Well, interestingly,
how do you see?
Yeah, we are mostly back in the office full time, 5 days a week.
Right.
I'm a big believer of businesses like ours having people together. I don't think that creativity happens in isolation. I don't think it's healthy, particularly for young people. We have a very young workforce. I think that they enjoy being back in the office. I know I do. I'm in 5 days a week. I love it. Gives me a real sense of inspiration. But I also think there needs to be more separation between home life and going into a workspace. And so by and large, most of our people are back in most of the time. Now, occasionally, if we need to work from home, obviously we will do that. But bottom line, the best ideas happen when you bump into somebody in a corridor, you have an amazing conversation, you have a really big laugh, because often good ideas give you a sense of humor, and magic happens. And magic does not happen in isolation when you are sitting at home in your tracksuit.
Yeah, well, it's great to say that, because creativity definitely requires those fuzzy sort of feelings and bumping into each other and that kind of stuff, where for different businesses work differently, but creativity and being in marketing space, it's a very different play field. Very quick question. Do you have any aha moments in 2024?
I think the big aha moment for me is watching everybody at WPP use our WPP Open platform, which is our marketing operating system powered by Satalia, which is the business that we purchased several years ago that specializes in AI. So watching people come into the office, logging on to Open, using ChatGPT every day, looking at the creative assets, doing production in the studio, making AI a part of their world to take away the tasks that we can automate to allow them more time to originate. That's been the aha moment. I mean, we only really introduced it in our offices probably properly 18 months ago, and it's only taken 18 months to go from what is this to everybody's using it every day. And I am thrilled about that. So to me, the aha moment is if you give people the tools, they will use them. And a little bit like, you know, my mother used to say, to make a great cake, you need the right ingredients. Well, open is the best ingredient for us to be creative.
Fantastic. There's a piece of an article I read, World Economic Forum. It writes about researchers from French Institute. They talk about how Thomas Edison used napping to kind of basically boost his creativity. And so did Einstein and Salvador Dali. Do you have any particular sort of tactics of how you boost your creativity?
Yeah, I do, George. I'm very, very, very good at doing absolutely nothing. Anyone that knows me well, and my fiance probably knows me the best, for sure he knows me the best, but I am very, very good at consuming a lot of popular culture, whether it's streaming, whether it's TV shows, series, movies, music, anything that feeds my mind. I have to read every single night. I cannot go to sleep without reading. But my way of being creative is not being on the job, it's being away from the job. And I'm very, very good at drawing a line between work and pleasure. And I am the world's greatest pop culture junkie. I watch it. I will watch everything from Love Island to, you know, Housewives of Beverly Hills, Real Housewives, to the latest movie at the cinema, to Ozark and The Crown and House of Cards, and you name it. I'm rewatching Downton Abbey right now because I love period pieces. So for me, I've got to eat a lot of creativity to feel creative.
Please don't answer all the rapid fire questions right now, bro.
Okay.
But that's great because creativity is on, always on, and you kind of need to replace it with something else that is not forcing you to kind of be thinking in terms of what value you bring to the client, something that what value you bring to yourself.
Yeah.
And how you can sort of recharge. We live in a very specific times. I don't think it's ever been this exciting. One side is economic turmoil. The other side is AI revolution. You touched base on that. What are the most significant trends shaping creativity, global creativity, right now, you think?
Yeah. I think the biggest trend is that chief financial officers are now understanding the value of creativity. And a lot of chief marketing officers are having finally a seat at the boardroom table. All of the biggest listed companies, both on the NASDAQ and the New York Stock Exchange, have marketers on their boards. That really matters. That isn't happening enough in Australia, but that is now starting to begin on Australian boards where we are looking at the value of marketing and putting those people in key positions because there is a direct correlation between creativity and revenue. And so that to me is the biggest trend, that a chief financial officer used to look at marketing spend and think it was expenditure, but now they see it as a genuine investment. So it's now finally sitting on the right side of the ledger. That's the first trend. I think the second biggest trend of creativity is that the least likely people are often your most creative. We have got some incredible people in our finance teams, in our accounting teams, in our teams that are coming into some of our brainstorming sessions and are coming up with the most genius ideas. The younger people that are joining our organizations who are unvarnished by anything historical because they're innocent and they have no sense of what is not possible. They are fearless, they are fresh, they are imaginative. They don't know that there is a no. And that is a great example of creativity from the most unlikely quarters or from the freshest mind. So there are probably a couple of the things that I'm seeing that are real trends when it comes to creativity.
Fantastic. So it's giving a voice to those that have not been so engraved in industry and it bring this a fresh air or and
Right.
angle.
Yeah. I mean, George, my favorite story is the story of the truck that gets stuck under a bridge. And 21 different engineers stand in a circle thinking how they can heighten the bridge And the little girl says, why don't we just take the air out of the tires? No? The little 5-year-old solves that problem creatively because she is not thinking about what a grown-up would think about, which is how to lift the bridge.
Yeah.
She's thinking about how to lower the truck.
Yeah.
And if that isn't the greatest example of creativity, then I don't know what is, but that's a child, because children are unencumbered by the noise and the white noise of no. All they can see is the possibility. So that is a great object lesson for everybody on the call.
Talking about the child and kids, currently AI is around that age. And I know there's a lot of people out there that fear for their life and jobs, especially in the creative industry, because AI decided to start from there. And you mentioned you're using already AI, and it's a very good for a lot of things, and it's not so great in others yet.
Yeah.
I guess everyone's kind of thinking, is AI going to eat up creative industry? And on one end, you have Canva that kind of empowering their users, and then you have AI. What is the role model of agency these days, and how we can actually move on with
Yeah.
everything that's happening?
That's a great question, George. You know, we have historically spent an incredible amount of time resizing creative assets, versioning assets for media channels, repurposing logos, and all the things that you need in retail media, in commerce. AI is now automating all of the things that used to take us so much time and effort and energy, freeing us up to come up with, hopefully, those big ideas that change the world. The ideas that, you know, get you a Grand Prix or a titanium at Cannes, but much more importantly, drive a business forward or unlock a new revenue stream. So we're very embracing of it because AI finally is getting to help us with a lot of the grunt work, which took hundreds of hours that frankly should be done by a machine.
Nobody wanted to do it as well.
Yeah, and they will do it properly and they won't make a mistake. There won't be any human error, allowing us to do the things that I don't believe AI will replace, which is imagination and instinct and lateral thinking. And I challenge any AI machine right now to be as crazy as my brain or your brain or anybody's brain, because the way that my synapses join the dots is entirely based on my nationality, my being Croatian, my being an Aussie kid raised in Australia with the Croatian parents, seeing the world through my eyes, with my background, with the way that I was raised. There's no AI in the world that can replicate my imagination. Not yet. Maybe a decade from now. So that's how we're looking at creativity and AI at WPP.
What do you think about a job scenario designer or chief imagination officer?
I love the job title. In fact, I said very loudly on the South by Southwest stage this week that every company should be finding a budget for people whose only job is to imagine. That's it. Their only job is to imagine wild scenarios. And they get paid for their imagination to think up the unthinkable, think up the crazy, think up all the things that no one spends any time thinking about. I think that's absolutely a job description of the future, for sure.
There are some parts of our society now that doing type of creativity that you just describing, and they're put in a bucket called content creators. And in the gamifying attention age, the agencies, how the agencies kind of, it seems like there might be a little bit of a competition with content creators. How do you see that sort of playing out?
Yeah. I mean, like any content, the best content rises to the top. There's a lot of content out there. There's not a lot of it is good. It's
True.
like television or the movies. I cannot tell you, George, and I'm sure everybody on the call has had this experience where I've taken my remote and gone click, 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 click. Why can't I find anything good to watch? It is the same for short form content, content created for TikTok or Insta or any of the channels. Good is good and not very good is not very good. And so the concern about the fight for content is defined by the same measure as it is for all content. Truly original, imaginative content will rise to the top, and everything else will just be noise.
Can you imagine what would maybe 5 to 10 years be like? What would you like to be seeing we, for example, talk in 5, 10 years and you tell me this is what happened to creativity?
Well, I think again that creativity has its rightful seat at the table, that it is admired and revered by chief financial officers and chief executive officers. It isn't the colouring in pencil department. It is the department that grows revenue streams, invents products, gives us product extensions, doubles our share price, doubles our market cap. We take it to our investor roadshow. The only thing in the history of the universe that's ever created that is imagination. If I look at the United States, 51 cents of every dollar in the United States comes from the ideas economy. Hollywood, Microsoft, Netflix, Facebook, Amazon, Google. In Australia, that number is 7 cents. So America has created the greatest export economy with the ideas economy, which is creativity and imagination. I think the lesson 10 years from now is, if you don't have creativity in the center of your organization, what are you doing? You have to have it, because that is how you create value.
Is there any, knowing that you've been in a jury for Cannes Lions and you're been around for quite some time, but do you have any creative campaigns that are global that just kind of spin your brain and go like, this is ingenious?
I do. I mean, the Serena versus Serena still I love for AKQA, where we did the comparison of Serena when she was a young woman to when she was a woman in her 30s and who would win that tennis match. Again, best use of AI I've ever seen. Morning After Ireland, Ogilvy's work, creating a place on international waters in a country that's very Catholic to give women an opportunity to take control of their bodies and of their contraception, which I think is extraordinary. The transparency card, another one from AKQA. The work that VML does for Wendy's. I think there are so many incredible examples that I've seen that are just hilarious, but more than that have changed legislation. I mean, the Morning After has changed legislation in that country. The work we do for Dove is extraordinary for body image. So there's so many campaigns that I can think about and talk about that I've seen, with my own eyes. The work that MasterCard did that won the Grand Prix in my category for creative data, which was amazing, which was about Ukrainian refugees escaping into Poland and opening up small businesses, and MasterCard giving them the data to say that if you open up a hairdressing salon next to a butchery, for example, both businesses will increase in sales. So there are so many examples that I can look at, but these are examples that have changed not just revenues for organizations, but created legislation, done things that are amazing.
Done impact.
Really huge impact. And impact, I mean, when you can change the law with your campaign, that's incredible.
People are asking for radical change across categories, across industries in Australia. This is something that kind of came out Monday in Australia. And there was a research done that 75% of people can debate topics with respect and respecting other opinions. And 53% are too afraid to speak their mind publicly, which is crazy to even imagine where we're at. What's the biggest and most pressing problems that you think creativity can solve, and where should be focusing right now?
Yeah, I mean, you're quoting the report that we did, which was all about our future for 2035. And I think the biggest challenge is allowing people to have a point of view and to debate issues respectfully. Creativity is a great way to solve some of the world's great problems, as we've talked about quite a lot, George. But ultimately, if you don't feel safe giving your opinion in a place that is safe, where you won't be taken down by the haters or those that disagree, then there will be no debate at all. And the only way that we move our society is having healthy debate. And the measure of a society is how we treat those that we disagree with. And that's the cornerstone of democracy. So we have to be in a situation where you and I can, for example, disagree, but do it respectfully, even though we do not agree with each other's point of view. The minute we take that away, there will be no progress.
Of course, of course.
There's another word for that, right? That's communism or fascism. That's not a good place to be. So that is what we need to focus on.
Great. I've got a few more questions. We'll see how many we can fit. But I think there is a lot of, at least I've seen around, people over 40s looking for the next chapter from agencies. How and what should creative leaders think right now?
I think creative leaders right now should be thinking about all the ways that they can say yes. There's many, many reasons to say no, but that doesn't get you anywhere. So I think creative leaders should be focused on how they can connect the dots in their own organizations or with their clients to find a way to say yes. I've always believed, George, that there is a solution to every problem. You just have to see the whole chessboard. Every leader needs to have a bird's eye view, and that's what I try to do in my job, is to see all of the chess pieces and to figure out the best play to get my people where they want to be and to get my clients where they want to be. And that is the role of a leader.
Fantastic. I got two more questions, Rose, for you. We want to close as close to 1:30. Do you think creativity can build trust?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's one of the best ways to build trust, because oftentimes creativity is used to solve a problem, and creativity actually predetermines an action. And when someone is trusting you to take action, the best way to build trust is for somebody to say to me, a client to say to me, Rose, I need you to solve this problem. I solve it. And then they trust that my word means something. So absolutely, George.
And finally, rapid fire questions, global creativity favorites for you. I think you're going to love this. So what is the most creative company?
I still think pound for pound, probably because I'm a devotee. I've got a lot. Apple, Netflix, they're probably my two favorites at the moment. I use everything that's Apple. I kind of love the way that they've never had to discount a product in their life.
Yeah, that's good. And what is the kind of marketing company that is most creative inside the WPP and outside?
In terms of one of our brands,
Yes.
well, look, I have to give them all equal weight because I have 10. And they are all, depending on the day of the week, they are all as creative as each other. And sometimes it'll be Ogilvy, sometimes it'll be VML, sometimes it'll be AKQA, Landor, Burson, Essence Mediacom, Mindshare, Wavemaker, right? I've named them all.
You're a great leader.
It depends.
A person.
I think, honestly, probably Reed Hastings from Netflix. I've always been an amazing devotee of the way that he changed the trajectory of the company from being a mail order DVD company to what it is today. Pretty extraordinary.
Would that be also a leader? Or if you can have a leader, there's a person and a leader?
I think, look, I always reach back. I look at some of the world's great pacifists like Gandhi. Right? That's my version of an incredibly creative leader. Bob Hawke for Australia was an incredibly creative leader because he managed to get Medicare passed. He floated the Australian dollar. He created superannuation. It's incredible. That's creativity at its finest in the political system. That's hard.
Yeah. What about the city?
What about
A city, creative city.
Oh, look, I still can't go past. I love Austin. I love Seattle. If I'm looking at the United States of America, probably more than New York, London, Paris, sure, Tokyo. Tokyo is probably for pound the most creative city for me right now.
We talked about the campaigns. Is there one that actually really stands out for you, top, most creative?
Yeah, I still think about the campaign for probably my favorite, if I'm really thinking back, it's for Tabasco sauce, where they wanted one of the agencies to come up with a creative campaign, and the agency said, just make the hole bigger. So you use more of it when you shake it. I'm a big fan of Tabasco sauce. So that to me is an incredible solution to a problem. Make the hole bigger.
Incredible. What about the country, entire country creative?
I think probably right now, the Scandinavian countries are probably some of the most creative based on how they're creating space for families, for parental leave, for sure Sweden, huge. Any country in the Netherlands, any country in that region is doing really, really well. The Nordic countries are probably pound for pound the most creative in the world right now.
Something you really love, the artist?
An artist right now that I'm really loving. Gosh, so many that I'm kind of listening to. You know what? Tony Bennett, because he has reinvented himself right to the very end of his life. I think that's incredible, you know, from the time in the 50s and the 60s to making, you know, covers with Lady Gaga. Love it.
Yeah, reinvention.
Yeah,
And
reinvention.
the most creative job?
I think the most creative job has to be showrunner, honestly. I think the people that get to create the shows who are showrunners. I mean, Shonda Rhimes, who's just created a powerhouse of everything from Bridgerton, which is her latest, greatest that I've watched over and over again, is incredible. Great
Nice.
job.
Thank you very much, Rose, for being with us today. I know you're very busy and found time to talk to us about the state of creativity today. There's a lot going on in the world, and it seems like it's not going to stop. And we need to dial on our imagination and creativity even more in the future.
George, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Excellent. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.